Hi, my name is Elli Milan, and I have been a professional artist since 1996. I painted this painting, and I'm going to show you in this video how I did it. Okay, well, I'm pretty excited. I'm going to start this painting. So my plan is I'm going to just start with acrylics and just kind of build up the general values. And then I'm gonna go with spray paint, and then I'm gonna try some oil pens because I just bought some oil pens and I haven't tried them out. And that sound. I actually have had this series in my heart for a while, probably almost a year, but I have more ideas than I have time to paint. So I got this idea of wanting to paint really like sensual, sweaty fruit, because not a lot of people paint still lifes. I wanted to kind of reinvent the still life and think about how to make a super experiential, sensual type of still life. So combining that with the Song of Solomon poem, it's this very sensual poem about two lovers and sort of how one is wooed by the other. And there's a lot of food references. The poem is written, it's just really, really beautiful how he describes food as a symbol for his lover. So I wanted to do a Song of Solomon series combining still life, and this is one of them in the series, but the other ones have sweatier fruit. So this fruit isn't so sweaty. It looks like I'm using golden today. I like golden paint a lot. It's probably one of the best on the market. I also like Da Vinci paint. I feel like Da Vinci paint is really, really great, and the colors are very saturated. Oh gosh, I hate squirting out paint. I want a little fairy that squirts out my paint for me. I'm starting with my favorite brush ever. It's made with oxtail, which is great. It just like holds the paint fantastic. It's really fat and you can just get a lot of paint down, and I love this brush for acrylic painting. So I'm just starting light, with my lightest color, which is gonna be yellow. I'm just blocking in wherever on my source I see any kind of hint of yellow, anywhere. Yellow, 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 yellow. I guess to kind of just get a presence on the canvas, make a mark, I always say to violate the white, and acrylic is very forgivable. It can be covered up, especially if paint with it thin. So starting with a thin wash is a way to start mapping out the big blocks of color. I knew from the photo and from the source, this was going to be lighter in tone, and it was going to be darker near the edges. So acrylic's like the best way to just cover some territory and get big blocks of things in. For me, it's really exciting. It's not just like in that moment it's exciting. Like I think about it the day before, like before I knew we were filming this, I was super excited. It was hard to even sleep because I'm starting a painting, and yeah, you have this white canvas, and to me it represents possibilities. I know for some artists, a blank white canvas is intimidating or it's scary. I've heard that from people. For me, it's never been that way. It's always felt like possibilities, fresh start. It's a blank white canvas and I'm gonna make my first marks, and I love that. It's more the middle of the painting that's hard for me. The beginning is great. If you don't project, then you do spend a big part of your painting time checking, rechecking, shifting, moving, you know what I mean? It's like, in some ways they come out cooler because you do see how you changed it, and they're not just like this like perfect little projection, and you can see like how you distorted it, which is to me always like a good fun thing. As long as it's believable, you don't want it out of proportion or anything. At this point, I'm going to, I think, play around with some spray paint. My left brain's not working. Not doilies, lace. So I have some stencils that look like lace, and I'm hoping with some spray paint and different things in there that I can make this area down here a little more interesting from the source. By the end, it'll probably be covered up and painted over. And I think it's really important that your process is fun. It's gotta be fun for you. You have to really enjoy, kind of hold and balance you know, you're creating something for somebody else. Somebody's gonna buy this one day and this is going to be their painting, but it's your painting for right now, so you get to enjoy it and you get to enjoy making it. I love spray paint as a medium because it's very immediate. It's very high energy. It's just like, it comes out fast, it comes out definite, there's no messing around. You've got spray paint in your hands and now it's on your canvas. I like to just kind of have the freedom in the beginning, because I know I can always cover it up or change it, is to just make marks and do like fake writing, just put some stuff down. I really wanted the idea, a feast table in the forest or something like that. I use stencils to kind of give the idea in an abstract way of a tablecloth or textiles and fabric. Yeah, I don't know. I like it as just a process. Anytime I can use spray paint, I like to use it. But I don't love the way it looks as a finished thing. So I usually cover it up. But if we were to take away the spray paint that was there, you know, you would notice, you would see its absence. So that was fun. And there's a lot of that throughout that is in those like underneath layers that fill up the space with something interesting. Look at all this paint I didn't use, and I wasted all that oil, all that white. I swear a lot of artists make bad decisions because they don't want to waste paint and they just do things they actually don't want to do just to use up their paint. You know what I'm saying? Okay, well, going into this painting, I knew that the color palette was a little bit different for me. Normally I'm like blue-red girl. Orange-green combo is always something I'm getting after John about, because he puts orange and green together all the time. I don't like that combo. And so I knew that kind of going into this, that the color palette was a little bit strange, but I really wanted it to work. I knew that I had to have like 100,000 shades of green for it to work. And so I learned a lot. I learned a lot about green because I normally don't paint in green. I was out of my comfort zone in color for sure. Going into it, what I thought was going to be difficult was getting the scale right with all of the still life parts, because they're up close and freakishly large compared to the animals. I mean, like this pear half, you know, as big as the deer's head. So I thought that was gonna be what would trip me up, and the foreshortening of a few objects. But it was this daddy deer. I don't know, there's something about the daddy deer, the stag, or no, a buck. That's, yeah, a stag is something else. Anyway, there's something about the buck that just really made everything difficult. I had the proportions off multiple times. And then Dino came to help me out. First, I was really relieved because I'm like, oh, okay, I keep trying to draw it and I keep messing it up. Dino will fix it. So this is when I just have a cup of coffee while my assistant, you know, paints for me. So the benefits to having children who are artists is, you know, when you've tried to draw it a couple times and you don't get it right and they happen to come in to ask you a question, you can just get them on your painting and, you know, and fix it. How you know you should get the Young Artist program for your child, and then when you're stuck on a painting, you know, they can come in and help you draw it. I think for you guys watching, it is really important as an artist to push the envelope and to challenge yourself and take what it is you do and amplify it. For me, a challenge would be to put more complexity in there, put more elements in there, but still make it work. That would be a challenge. You're gonna get better, you're gonna get more engaged with your work, you're gonna enjoy it better if you push the envelope and do what you really want to do and not be afraid of the challenge, not be afraid of the level of difficulty. Challenge yourself and do the difficult thing and do what you're really excited to paint. So at this stage, when I'm putting basically the final layer on the paint, there's no more, you know, planning ahead for those layers. It's that final layer that basically the end result, you're gonna see everything I put down. I want lots of color for that because I need lots of nuances in color. So if you wanna mix color really, really fast, lay out your paint every single time the exact same way. I put yellow, orange, red, green, blue, violet. That way I have complements opposite and all my paint gets mixed according to that sort of template, and it makes for a really fast painting to kind of zone out and be in your right brain and not have to think about things too much. So that's why I have all these colors and they're laid out in a very particular way. Notice my edges, because when I work with a lot of students, their control side and their left brain wants to outline all their edges all along the way so they can see it and they won't lose the form. And it's really important to them that they outline all the edges. And that is not a good thing to do, and I'll tell you why. Two things. One, you overpaint your edges, and all your edges that should be misty and blurry get crisp, and then you have to blur them up later. And so it has that over-painted, over-labored look, and it doesn't look effortless. So that's one reason. The other reason is when you outline it, things get stylized and simplified, and you change the shape of what's actually in the form, and you kind of simplify it into making it a little more round or a little more straight, rather than really looking at what is that shape exactly. So what I really recommend is your edges should look somewhat like this, very blurry, non-defined. You pull your close edges tight and crisp, and really have that like kind of harsh edge to make it look more graphic and like it's more forward. And then let your mid edges just basically be a nice soft edge. And then your far edges are gonna remain blurry and nondescript. Like I might not even render out the tip of that ear because I really want it to go back and disappear into the background. So that is my tip for you on edges. I highly recommend you don't start making crisp edges until you are 3/4 of the way through your painting and you're in that final stage where you're rendering. So if we remember, Dino came in to help me, and I appreciate his heart and his willingness to help, but he didn't draw it right. He didn't. He had it messed up too. As I'm going to look and measure, to me, it just looks funny, way too long here. So I remeasured, eyes should be here, nose should be here. That gives us more space for the neck. And anyway, it needs reconstructive surgery. It's one of those things where I could probably get away with, squishing him, bringing this down a little bit. It would always bother me. So I'm gonna fix it. I'm just gonna kind of blur in some thin paint, and then I'm gonna reiterate the drawing of it, remeasure, make sure I get it right, and then pick up where I left off. I have found that if I do too much in acrylic, then it gets really tight, and it's almost like I'm painting multiple paintings on top of each other instead of just building layers. I try to go to oil as early as I can. As soon as I feel like the composition at least is kind of there and getting resolved, and there's not gonna be big mistakes, let's say, in oil. And now that my skills have gotten better over the years, I can go to oil sooner. Years ago, I hesitated on oils because it's so final and it's harder to overcome a mistake. For me, it's always this battle with myself to not go too tight too soon. The final last stage of highlights and all those things that I saved for the very last layer to make sure everything's dry before I put that. I think that a lot of artists make the mistake of hurrying and wanting to finish and not take the time to let things dry and add that final layer. And so it's really, really important to do that, because as you have wet paint, it's gonna be muddy and you won't be able to get that really, really bright, shiny highlight. So it's really important to let your paint dry. So that's what I'm doing now. Well, I wanted to try out my new markers, and I forgot that I was gonna do it halfway through. So at the end, there were some like kind of marky doodads here and there that I think pens would just make it go easier. I could get a script brush and make all those lines, and I've done that in the past, but since I had oil markers, might as well use them. And so yeah, I'm glad that I got to use them, and I will definitely use them again. And I think I'm gonna try using them earlier in the piece and then maybe again at the end. That's the beauty of oil markers, is you can use them in the beginning of oil, and you can use them in the middle of oil, and you can use them at the end of oil. So, because they're oil markers. I'm pretty much done with this painting except for one last thing, and it has to lay flat for that. I have a lot of little dots, so I'm going to show you my trick for that. You need 2 different size brushes. So I have one bigger brush and then this smaller script brush, and I'm loading up the brush with lots of paint, and then I'm going to just flick it. It's just fun. I don't know. I think it's the randomness. There's like a random order to dots. You know they're gonna come out as perfect dots. They're not gonna come out as dashes or splatters or awkward. They come out perfectly round because that's what gravity does. I don't know. I really enjoy that each and every time. And I think that might be why. I almost always know when my paintings are done. So I don't struggle with the start. I do not struggle with the end. I think the only way I could overwork something like this is maybe adding too much abstraction, too much doodads in there where you're like, what am I looking at? Is that a bowl? What is that? I usually don't overwork pieces and I think it's a part of my temperament. I know exactly what the result's supposed to look like, and I know when I'm there. So I'm all finished. This painting is finished. I'm done. So if you guys really like this content and you loved these start to finish videos that we're doing, I highly recommend that you like, subscribe, and follow our channel, because there is a lot more cool stuff coming.